Okay.
That's right.
My boat got broke into.
We'll speak again, Mr. Johns.
Thank goodness. John, Beecher.
Tell you.
Back together at 90 years old. I believe it.
I said, that's it, right?
It is.
Oh, I understand, that's okay, that's okay.
You should have got a picture.
Oh, I was going to say.
We ready?
How are you?
Okay, it's 5:30. I'd like to call the special call Board of Trustees meeting for April 14th to order. And at this time, if you would please observe a moment of silence. Thank you. This evening we have Mr. Johns here. Mr. Jason Johns will be doing a 20-minute presentation on his 100-day entry plan. And I would like to remind all of those who are watching this streaming that tomorrow we will have both candidates' presentations on the district website. If anyone is not able to see it tonight or will miss last night, you'll be able to see it starting tomorrow on the district website. Mr. Johns.
Thank you, Mr. Roots. Before I start, and this will kind of speak to the first two slides, I want to be very intentional in saying that one of the things that is so exciting about Anderson 2 is it has such a long tradition for excellence, and so I'm going to kind of start on that. I think it's important to honor the tradition of the past and all the hard work that has been done in this district, because that's the beginning point for us. And so I wanted to say that to kind of preface the first couple of slides. So Anderson's mission statement: Anderson 2 ensures all students are equipped with world-class knowledge, skills, and core values that exceeds the demands of future in a safe and supportive environment. Three things that jumped out to me and really resonated with me concerning this is all students. As I spent this morning in your school buildings with a different level of students, it is so obvious in Anderson 2 that there's no hierarchy of children. Every single child in our school is seen through an asset perspective. Every single child is seen as a very special, created young person that adds a richness to our school community. And that is a huge strength of this district, and it's also the identity of this district. And I know that those who are listening to this at home and those of us in this room, we live it, and that's just the kind of schools that we expect. But that's a pretty special thing in education these days. The second thing is it exceeds the demands of the future. And what jumped out to me in that, and this is especially speaking to your CAPE programs, the Anderson 1 and 2 Career Development Centers, and then our dual credit classes, is we are preparing in Anderson 2, and we do a pretty doggone good job of this, of preparing students for jobs that do not even exist yet. Just thinking about the different technology industries, all the different needs in the engineering industries that are out there, that those jobs are going to be created. So us positioning our graduates at BHP to be able to immediately move into the workforce or go to college first and immediately be able to impact our community, it's important that that's a goal of ours. And then, of course, doing all that in a safe and supportive learning environment. And just some of the structural improvements that we've made to create that safe learning environment, some of our special needs programs that we have that are pretty doggone comprehensive and innovative, that's a big part of what makes Anderson 2 a special place. And so I know y'all look at this all the time. This is kind of the page that we're all on, but those three things about our mission statement jumped out to me. And then statement, kind of what that looks like when you walk through the school, and this is a unique thing to Anderson 2 also, is our learning community. One of the things that I'm so excited about, and it's an asset that we can capitalize on, is that we are living in a community that loves their schools and is behind what we're doing in Anderson School District 2. I was meeting with a gentleman who knows this community, and I said, is it the kind of school district, Anderson 2, where on a Friday night, you've got your grandmother and your grandparents, you've got your business folks, they come out to the stadium just to celebrate their kids. He said, Jason, it's the kind of school district that on Tuesday during a chorus concert, you've got the whole community coming out celebrating those kids. And that's just a very, and y'all live it, and this is your home, and so you're just used to that's just the way it is. But that's a very special thing about our district, and it really makes me excited. So I wanted to start the presentation just honoring that, who we are as a district before we're going forward. I told this when I met with your teachers and then when I met with your district office staff, and this is kind of the second thing, but because this is y'all's home, I don't think that maybe, and everybody who's viewing this at home doesn't know the reputation of Anderson 2, but as I've talked to former and current superintendents, as I talked to people in South Carolina High School League athletics, as I talk to administrators, there's what you hear from around the state is our excellent fine arts, traditional excellent fine arts programs, academically very strong, our athletic achievements. We have got the best teachers in South Carolina here in Anderson 2, and just meeting them and the administrators just really affirmed that. The community support and involvement. And then when you hear people talk about our Anderson 2 kids, you constantly hear just a strong work ethic. When those kids get off the bus, they get off to play. And so you just that reputation of Anderson 2. And the reason I spent time at the beginning of the presentation on this is just to make sure that our district community and our community of Honea-Path and Belton know that I'm aware we have a very strong tradition. And a lot of work has been put into this district generation after generation, and we are poised to be a model school district in this state. We have the kids, we have the community support, we have the leadership, and I'll be very transparent with you. When I was talking about our school board and just sharing information that every single person on this school board is a graduate from BHP, and doggone it, 6 of the 7 are former teachers and administrator. That is a gift to a district, y'all. That is a huge gift, and so that really resonated with me, and so I wanted to begin the presentation like that. There are 3 guiding questions and 3 goals that kind of lead this 100-day plan. The first question is, what are our instructional assets and how can we capitalize on these? As I spend the first 100 days in the district, an important thing I'll be doing is talking to our administrators and teachers and what are our instructional strengths and how can we capitalize on those throughout all of our buildings. And so in our elementary schools, what are the things that maybe that we do really well in 3rd grade, that first grade where we're tested, and how can we duplicate that instructional excellence in every single 3rd grade class? And so finding those things during the first 100 days will be a priority. The second question, in what ways are we best moving as a unified team in Anderson 2? And the reason this is such an important question is as a leadership team, those of us in this room, our building principals and our teachers, it is essential that we are unified. It's essential that when we are talking about what good instruction looks like, we are talking about the exact same thing. When we're talking about, Miss Smith at Marshall Primary is really getting after in her classroom, and those kids are learning at a high level. We know exactly what that means, that bell-to-bell instruction, that continual formative assessment, that level of rigor that we expect in our class, that's happening everywhere. So one of the key questions is, in what ways are we best moving as a unified team in Anderson 2? And then the third question is, what are our collectively identified opportunities for improvement in Anderson 2? So as I spend the first 100 days in this district, what are some things as a school district that we've collectively identified that we could improve in to serve our students even more? Those will be 3 questions that are guiding through this entry plan. And then the 3 goals, and these are in order of importance. The first goal is to build the relationships. In every organization, and Anderson 2 included, it is all about the people. And if I just did one thing well in that 100-day plan, and if it were to build relationships with each one on the school board, with all the principals, with the district office staff and our teachers, that would be time well spent. So just building those relationships. And we know as leaders, there's no shortcut to building relationships. You just spend time with people. You just find out what they need, what are they gifted at, what are they good at, and how can you capitalize on that. The second would be identifying district strengths, improvements, opportunities, and challenging. We touched on that just a little bit, but what are those things we do very well, and how can we capitalize on those strengths? What are those things that we can improve in? And then identifying those, and then what are some of the challenges that we have in our community, maybe in education in general, and how can we support our teachers and ultimately our students in that. And then the third goal during the 100-day entry plan would be update the needs, objectives, and work priorities. When I met with our teachers of the year, and I met with our district office staff and our support staff, I asked each one of the group, what are some things that you need to be more successful? And typically when you do that, you'll start to see a pattern with things. And we've got really good people here. I told our teachers of the year here, the best teachers in South Carolina are in Anderson too. And so identifying ways that we can support them better, that we can put in structures of accountability to make sure that the teaching in the classroom is happening that our children deserve, to make sure that our fine arts and that our athletic programs have everything they need for those students to be engaged, specifically with extracurricular activities. And we know that if a child is just going to school, whenever it starts, let's say it's 8:30, and then they're walking out of the school building when the bell rings, and that's all they do, they are missing such a huge part of the education of the total child. So the goal of having every child in some type of extracurricular event to motivate them and to get them engaged and get them part of our district family will be a priority as well. There'll be 3 phases of the entry plan. The first phase will be pre-entry from May to June 30th, and that'll actually be prior to official start date, but that'll be some valuable relationship building time. The second phase will be the listening and learn tour. And y'all, if y'all have heard a single entry plan in the last 5 years, I bet every single one of them had the verbiage listen and learn tour. And that'll be from July to September 1st. And then phase 3 will be when I develop a needs assessment and summary report, which I will present to the Anderson School District to school board. And that will be toward the end of that entry plan, September and October. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that plan that I submit to you, our school board, will have identify a needs assessment from our principals and from the district office staff. It will include input from our teachers, and it will be a comprehensive document that will let the school board know these are areas of support, these are areas of increased structure, these are areas of accountability that we've identified to meet the needs of our students well. And that'll be important. I'm excited about talking about that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Phase 1, the pre-entry plan, from May to June 2021. The big focus will be learned in our Anderson 2 communities. With me, you'll be getting the whole John's crew, and so I'll be bringing all 6 children down here, my wife, and they're all very excited. But during this time, we'll want to find a church home. We want to get our children involved in the different athletics, different fine arts. I've got a 6-year-old who just loves band to death, and so just finding out how they can get plugged in and how we can get involved, how we can start putting down roots, just spending time doing that, just meeting with people. And there's no easy, quick way to do it. You just go into the businesses, you just find the social, the community groups, you just find your churches, your youth groups, you just call the principals, and you mind if I spend the day with you? I took the day off, I'm going to go down and do some lunch duty with you. You just do that a whole lot for 2 months. And then that'll help you build those relationships. And then be intentional to ensure multiple perspectives and voices be heard, both in the Honia Path and the Belton community. In every community, there are groups of our school family that either they're a little reticent to let their voice heard, or either we haven't created the structure to do that. And part of my job during this first phase is to find those groups of people and create structures And a lot of time, those structures are not those groups coming up to the schoolhouse. A lot of times you have to go to them. So finding those groups that we don't typically hear from, and making sure that you create an opportunity to hear those voices. So you have to go to them. You have to go to those churches. You have to go to those places where they congregate. One example of this is currently where I'm at. 2 years ago, we redid the attendance alignment zones. So we built a new high school. We changed all, which that's just a joy to do right there. And so we got 117 students from our rival high school. And so you can imagine that was pretty tough for those children. During the summer of that year, I visited every single home of those 117 kids, got a T-shirt with their class of whatever year they were graduating at, and just made sure they knew that we were excited about having them. And then throughout that first semester, we had focus group sessions with those students, because they're going to listen to a student more than they're going to listen to an adult, just to make sure they knew that we were being very intentional about bringing them into their school family. And a lot of times you have to do it one-on-one just like that. They've heard from, so I'll talk a little bit about that later. Phase 2 will be through July and September. And this will be, well, I will have moved here into this community, and this will be a more structured time. I'm looking forward to meeting individually with each board member. We've talked about this briefly before, but y'all know this community, and I will lean a lot on your guidance about learning the needs, learning what are the things that we do very well, what are the aspects of our school district that we value, what are the things that traditionally we have done, we've been very successful at, and we want to continue that tradition. What are some of our community assets that we can access to bring into our school buildings? And so I'll really look forward to learning that from each one of our school board members, meeting with district leadership, both individually and then corporately, and finding out ways that we can more efficiently and more effectively support our teachers. Meeting with the principals, both individually and corporately, and finding out ways that I can support them better, finding out the things that they need at their schools, finding out areas that that they could use a little bit more guidance in, finding out ways, and then just building that trust. Part of the building the trust with our principals is me kind of going first and being vulnerable. That's one of the ways you build trust, kind of me making sure that I'm very visible and very accessible. And then also meeting our stakeholders. Two things about meeting our stakeholders in the community is to listen broadly and learn comprehensively. And so a lot of times we want to have a conversation and we say we just want to learn in that conversation, but really we just want to let that person talk long enough for us to think what we want to say so we can convince them to our way of thinking. But during this phase, that's not what I'm going to be doing. I need to make sure that I'm listening just to learn. And then create structures to ensure all voices are heard. During this summer, the months of July to September, July, August, and September, make sure I create opportunities each week for to meet with community members, having coffee with the superintendent, find out where our folks eat breakfast during the week and go there, find out which one of our churches and bodies of faith have opportunities where I can meet with those people, find out where our community organizations are so I can spend time with them. And I'll be very transparent with you. I don't know what those things are, but when I do, doggone it, on September 1st, every single person in this community will know who I am on site. And so just making sure that we create structures so that we can do that. And then the final phase, and I'm really excited about this, is to develop the needs assessment and summer report for the Anderson 2 School Board. And included in that will be, and this is what I'll submit to you, will be a review of the organizational structure. And so just to share with you some of the things that I've learned, some of the areas maybe that we could be more efficient, some areas that we need more support, some areas that we need to spend some more resources so that we can be more supportive for our students. Just our district climate. I spent a little bit of time talking about unity, y'all, but I'm going to say this, and I will think of a different way to say this when I'm driving home. But it is more important as a high-functioning organization to be unified than it is to be accurate. If you are so caught up in doing it exactly the right way, well, first of all, as leaders, we know you're never going to get there. Because you're going to do it the exactly right way. Then you're going to reflect on that, right? And then you're going to realize, you know what? We should have done blank. What's most important is being unified by a clear set of values, and this is what we're about. These are our priorities, and those guide your decision making. And what that does for your people is it shows them it is okay to take risks. And that's what we want our teachers to do in the classroom. And of course, risk based on best practices and based on research, but we want them to be free to do things differently than they have done it in the past. Because if you do the same thing as you did in the past and you expect different results, then that's the definition of insanity. And that's and again, we have the best teachers in South Carolina here in Anderson too, so they will only benefit from that. And then also share with you key work priorities. The second piece will be communicate to learn, not just to convince, direct, or inform. And again, when I present this to the school board, I will look forward to hearing from you some of the things that we can do, changes or improvements to make. And then finally, during this phase, to establish structure for input, to clarify action items that will drive Anderson to be a model school district. I think this is the second time that I've said it, but y'all are well aware of the things in this school district that we do very well, and you're very well of areas of improvement that would benefit our students even more. I have yet to learn that, but through research and then talking with some of our folks, there's a couple of things that just at the very beginning I would be really excited about having conversations about, and that brings us to this slide. Unity in Anderson 2, focus of district office leadership, principals, and teachers around our values and collective commitments. I think our school district, and I'll be able to talk much more intelligently about this as we go through the entry plan, I think our school district would benefit from a more unified approach across all elementary schools, across all of our middle schools, more consistent through our hallways in our high school, would benefit for some structured time for them to collaborate and to very clearly and intentionally nail down expectations that we have when we talk about quality instruction. When we're walking down the third grade hall and we're talking about, Miss Smith is really, she is knocking it out of the park every day in that classroom. We need to be, when we say that, we all need to know exactly what we're talking about. And we need to talk about ways that we can duplicate that excellent learning experience throughout all the third grade classrooms. And if it's important, then we've got to create time to do it. Another thing would be student academic achievement. I think we would benefit from a focus on maybe at our secondary level and do some things in our PLCs, like create common assessments, make sure that we're constantly evaluating and tweaking those common assessments, making sure that we are using those instruments to lead our collaborative conversation with our teachers and identifying best practices and just sharing that. I also think that kind of really strengthens the culture of your school. Our teachers want to collaborate, they want to work together, they want to get better, and so creating the time and the structure to have them do that is only going to benefit our students. Conversations about vertical alignment. This is number 3, where our elementary teachers can have those conversations with the middle school teachers. So those 6th grade middle school teachers can very clearly explain and share with those elementary teachers, these are the absolutely non-negotiable skills those elementary students need to have when they come to middle school. This is the content they need to have mastered for them to be able to keep pace in middle school. And then there's conversations between our 8th grade teachers and 9th grade teachers. Both groups would appreciate that so much, but just this is just kind of how we do it times for those teachers to have those vertical alignment conversations. It'll do a couple of things. First of all, it will increase the relationship between both of those schools and those groups of teachers. The second thing it will do is that those 8th grade teachers, it will empower them because they will be able to visualize exactly what my kids need to be able to do when they get to that 9th grade. And that gives them a little bit more credibility. Because I'm saying this because this is exactly what the 9th grade teachers want. And then the third thing that they do is those 9th grade teachers are able to really structure that matriculation from middle school to 9th grade to position those kids to learn at the highest level possible. In this district, we have such incredible opportunities for dual credit in those high-level CAPE programs. And we have got per capita or proportionally to our school completers in this district with our CAPE credentials. It is incredible, y'all. Our Anderson II Career and Development Center is a model in the state, and even the facilities that we have down at BHP, because it's a little bit more accessible to the students, is just phenomenal. And then finally, I mentioned this before, but a focus on common assessments throughout all of our elementary and middle schools and high schools, and having our teachers involved in the development of that. And I'll be very transparent with you. I think there's a lot of assessment programs that you can purchase that gives you a whole lot of data, and I think those are very strong. I think sometimes, though, the tendency is to test the kids a whole lot. You get a whole lot of data, but you don't carve out time to do anything with that data. You know, you're not able to drill down. So exactly what I'm going to do next week to help this group of children master that skill that they haven't mastered yet. Because I've taught the best that I could. If I knew how to do it better, I'd have done it better. I think when we have teacher-made common assessments, whatever that looks like, I think that's the right amount of information, whether that's unit tests, whether those are just benchmark tests. I think that's the right amount of information to identify the skills that the students have mastered and the skills that they need to, and it allows you to be nimble enough that I can change instruction from day to day or at least week to week. And I think those would be some valuable conversations to have and things to include as we begin this 100-day plan and prepare for the next school year. There is very little, and again, I'm very transparent with you, there is very little that I have ever thought in my own head all by myself. And so the preparation of this entry plan has come after many, many conversations of current and former superintendents and educational leaders that I've spent a lot of time with in order to prepare for this presentation and our time together. And this is the 4th time I've said it, y'all. The success of this district, the number one determinant is the unity in this room and the unity of the leadership in this district. And after meeting our teachers and after meeting our principals and our district office staff, I am so excited about working with them and unifying that group under the leadership in this room, because this district is poised to be a model school district in South Carolina. As me and my wife we're looking at this area, and oh Lord, I've looked at Realtor.com 1,000 times, and just going through this process. The thing that we say at the end of each night after we get through doing our research and looking at how you know how you do, is why in the world is not everybody moving there? And y'all are probably glad everybody's not moving there. But just the supportive community, the level of teachers that we have in this district, the dedication of the administrators, just alone, just the identity and the individuals on the school board. We just have to pick how successful we want to be, and the sky's the limit, y'all. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate what you do. Nobody joins a school board because it's fun. Y'all have to deal with all the stuff that most people don't want to deal with. So thank you for your service and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johns, for an excellent presentation. We'll be going into executive session in just a minute, but I want to mention that we'll terminate the live stream now, because after the executive session, there will be no vote taken. All we'll do is come out of executive session and dismiss. So we will take a 5-minute break to give you a chance to rest your voice a minute and stretch. And so our technical people can get everything turned off, but we'll do that after we get a motion to go into executive session.
Move, we go into executive session, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Ashley, Dr. Barnes, second, all in favor? So we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll